Okay, we're continuing the Sicha of Tetzaveh, Tavshin Beis. This is a very geschmack Sicha, very powerful Sicha. Just to summarize the point that we learned last week. Before that, in this Sicha, the Rebbe explains what's the union of Adar body Mazle. That in Adar, the Mazel of Yidden are very strong. The Rebbe basically explained that Chazal tell us that a Yid has no Mazel. Ein Mazel Yisrael. So how can we say that the Maila of the month of Adar is the fact that the Mazel of a Yid is strong? So the Rebbe explains that there are two pshatim in the concept of a Mazel. Usually, when it tells us that the Yid has no Mazel, what does that refer to? To the Mazalis of nature. A Yid is not under any of the laws of nature, doesn't get any of his chayas through nature, and therefore ein Mazel Yisrael. But then there's another concept of a Mazel. Mazel refers to the etzem of the neshama, the essence of the neshama of a Yid, which is here, experience and feel and live with our seichel, with our midas and our guf. And the Rebbe teaches, when the Gemara says ein Mazel Yisrael, it has to be read ayin Mazel Yisrael. It's the ayin. It's a level which is completely beyond our comprehension, beyond our metzias. The neshama l'mayla, the very essence of the connection of a Yid to the Eibishter, that's the Mazel of a Yid. And the point of the Sikha until this point was, the Rebbe explained that in the month of Adar, this level of ayin, which is completely unlimited, it can break all boundaries. It can break any decree. And that's what Haman missed. Haman was looking at the Yidden the way he saw them begoli in this world, but he didn't see the essential power of the Yidden the way they're connected above. But when Yidden were able to reveal through the Koyach of Mesiris Nefesh this essence of the Neshama, they were able to break the greatest decree that was upon Klal Yisrael in any time in history. That's the point of the Sicha till here. Here, Si'iv Vav and Si'iv Zayin, which hopefully we'll learn today, the Rebbe takes this whole thing and shifts over to bring it down. Let's bring it down into this world. Everything the Rebbe is saying till here is basically explaining a person. You look at yourself, you look at your what makes up your personality, how you experience life, your seichel, your midas, things in nature that you interact with, and you think that that's what defines who you are. So the Rebbe comes and tells you, no, you're making a mistake. That's not who you are. There's an essence, there's a mazel that's above, and that's your real identity. So your seichel, your perspective on life, your emotions, the things that you feel in life, all these layers, and come to the very essence, which is removed of all of the details that you think make up your personality. But now, in the Hemshech of the Sicha, the Rebbe is going to take this point and bring it back down. But the point though is, it's not enough for a person to take away all these layers of his personality and discover that essence which is there. But then you have to take that essence and bring it down and apply it and integrate it into every aspect of your life, all the layers of the person's life, his seichel, his midas, and everything else that does make up his day-to-day being and his day-to-day experience of life. So this is the next chelik of the Sikha here. Let's continue inside in Oisvav. We can explain why the birth of Moshe Rabbeinu, that I've explained before, that the birth of Moshe refers to the birth of the very essence of every single Yid. How and why is this related specifically to the seventh day of Adar? And really there's a question here. You would expect, if we're talking about the essence of a Yid, why is that related to the number 7? The number 7 is the cycle of Seder Shtalshalos. The cycle of the week is 7. And the number 7, we always know, refers to the regular Seder of a person's week, of a B'chal, Seder Shtalshalos. So why is Moshe Rabbeinu's birth specifically on Shiva B'Adar? So the Rebbe explains, Shiva B'Adar Meira ala Shleimus Chodesh Adar. Shiva B'Adar hints to the fact that this is a full week into the month of Adar. Shiva Yomim Ritzufim, 7 consecutive days, Shekailim Kol Shiva Simei HaShavua, including each one of the days of the week, whenever a Shchedesh falls out. If a Shchedesh is on a Sunday, so you have it in the order from Sunday to the following Sunday, or from whatever other day in the week, you have all 7 days of the week on Shiva B'Adar. Shiva Yimei Bereshis, the 7 days of creation, Yimei Abinyan, Klal Yisraelim, the days that the Eibusha creates and builds this entire world. Kfi sheheim the Chodesh Adar. You have the entire cycle of creation within the month of Adar. So what does this mean? So the seventh day of the month of Adar hints to this, that this special, unique level that we spoke about earlier in the Sicha, what the month of Adar represents, what does it represent? Adir b'marem Hashem, the mightiness of the Eibishter, which is exalted. What does this pasuk hint to? Adir b'marem Hashem is a level which is completely removed from anything that we know over here in our reality, anything in creation. It's the Eibishter himself which is removed of being any source to creation. Adir. There's two terminologies here. Adir and b'marem. So how does this connect to our world? But Shiva ba'adar means that it's nimsheches v'chayderes u'mizgala b'gidrei aylam. You have to take that very essence and the source of the Eibishter himself, which is removed of creation altogether, and bring him down. Bring him down, reveal him, draw him down, that it should penetrate what defines the existence of the world here below, which seems to be so distant. And it's a different reality of the essence of the Eibishter. But what's the truth? The truth, though, is that everything that's created in the world is created with a kavanah al yaina, that the Eibishter himself has a certain purpose. Chassidus tells us that the purpose of creation is nisava. Nisava, before you get to the other details, but nisava means that it's the Eibishter's desire. So everything that you see in our reality of creation, you can look at it in two ways. You can look at it and say that this is separated from the source. This is a world that has a nature on its own. It's a world that functions and runs and there's a tzimtzum. The Eibishter's presence is very much concealed and minimized, and we're very far from the source. But what's the truth? Nisava. Everything you see in creation is part of Hashem's desire. And we know, what is the concept of a desire? A desire is something that comes from a very deep essence where there's no reasons, there's no explanations, there's no levels. It's the essence of the Eibishter himself, his desire. So we have to draw it out and bring down the bari mazle, the adir b'marem Hashem, the essence of the Eibishter here down in the world, in the cycle of the number 7, which represents the existence of creation. This point, that this is the objective of this month, is hinted in the name of the month as well. Adar is Aleph Dar. It's a combination of two words. Aleph, referring to the Eibishter, is Dar. He dwells in this month. Sheraim is this hints, Alam Shachas Vigiluya Aleph, drawing down and revealing the Aleph, Alufay Shel Olam. The Eibishter being the master of the entire world, Ba'olam, over here in this world below. To create a dwelling for the Eibishter here below. That's what the word Dar refers to. A dwelling for the Eibishter here below. And this is emphasized even more so on the 7th day of Adar. That you can bring down the Eibishter into the 7 days of creation. Every day has its own nature. There's chesed on Sunday. There's gevura on Monday. Every day is very unique and very specific. And if you're going to look at every single day individually, so then you think that this day is limited to the nature of this day. Sunday has the power of Sunday. Monday has the power of Monday. Api Kabbalah. I mean, every day of the week. The reason why is the question that Alter Rebbe asks in Likutei Torah. Why do we count every week again from Sunday, Yom Rishon, Yom Sheni, when it's not Yom Rishon or Yom Sheni? There's many thousands of days since the time of creation. Elamai, because every Yom Rishon, there's a nature of Sunday, which is chesed, that comes back on this day. But that's only the nature of the day, the existence of the nature of that day. But then, over here, we're talking about bringing the Aleph into Sunday, the Aleph into Monday, the Aleph into Tuesday. It's the same Aleph, which is Dar, which you reveal in every single part of creation. Okay. That's the Nikud over here. So in other words, the point that the Rebbe is saying is that our Aveda does not consist of running away of nature, trying to ignore the powers of nature that exist. Every day of creation has a certain teva and a certain power that's in it. Even in a person himself. A person himself is made up of 7 midas. Chesed, Gvura, Teferes. So what's a person supposed to do? If he has a feeling of chesed or if he has a feeling of Gvura, he's supposed to ignore it all, not pay attention to the feelings that he has, and just say to himself, look, it doesn't make a difference what I feel. I just have to have Kabbalah Soil, listen to what the Eibishter says. My neshama wants to do it. I don't feel it. I don't, my heart, in my mind, I don't relate. I don't appreciate. I don't connect. Doesn't matter. Your essence wants it. Right? The Rebbe always would quote the Rambam. The Rambam says the essence of a Yid wants to do the mitzvah. Whether you feel it, whether you don't. So why does it matter if I feel it or not? That's what you might think. But what's the emes though? The fact that the Eibishter creates a person not as a robot or not as a shallow human being and just pre-programmed that this is the way things have to get done. But the Eibishter creates you with these feelings. The Eibishter creates you with a mind that thinks and has a perspective and has an opinion. There's a reason for it. Because the Eibishter wants that connection of the essence should become permeated in your entire being. And it should be a deep connection, not just a connection of the essence, but it should come down into all of the kaiches of the person. So, it befedish does matter what you feel. It befedish does matter what you think. Not because you as an individual are so, if you look at yourself as an individual that's separated from the Eibishter, then your opinion befedish doesn't matter. But if you begin with the essence, and then you want to bring down the essence, that it shouldn't just remain aloof and removed of who you are, but you have to draw down that essence and now integrate it into what you feel and what you think. And if you ask yourself and you say, but my opinion, I don't appreciate this, I don't connect to this, that matters. That's the whole avodah of our life. The whole avodah of our life is to take that essence, the aleph, and bring it down. Dor. We should become comfortable with this aleph. We should be able to live with it. We should be able to appreciate the dor. The Rebbe says, by the way, the same thing regarding the whole Ness of Purim, that the Ness of Purim happened in a oifen that it didn't break anything in nature. The Alter Rebbe says in Torah, you look at the whole story of Purim, there's not a single thing that happened in the story of Purim that's Hepech HaTeva. Maybe there are things that it says in Midrashim. There's all kinds of things that it says that happened. But if you look in the story of the Megillah, there's nothing that broke Teva B'chlal. Because that's the whole point of Chodesh Adar. Aleph Dor is not about bringing down a Gilei Elokus in the world that shatters nature, a revelation that doesn't pay attention to the Metzias of nature, Fakat. The whole point of the Gilei of Chodesh Adar is to show that the Eibishter dwells within nature. What's the true Metzias of Teva? Teva is not a stira Elokus. If you look at it b'chitzenius, it's a contradiction. But the emes Metzias of Teva is Aleph. It's the Eibishter in it. It's the same thing with the individual. You look at yourself and you think that there's this question over here, or there's this constant struggle. There's the Aleph, and then there's me. And there's a constant struggle of who's going to be stronger. But what's the emes dir b'tachtain, and what's the ultimate purpose of our Aveda? That not that a person has to forget and drop himself in order to connect to the Eibishter. Adarabah, bring down the Aleph into every aspect of your life. That's the teichen of Chodesh Adar. You can see this at the time of Moshe Rabbeinu's birth. What happened then? So the Gemara tells us at the time of Moshe Rabbeinu was born, the whole house was filled with light. So what does this mean? The house was filled with light. Everything Chazal tell us is precise. So the Pashtus, it tells you that his neshama was shining so powerful that the light of his neshama emanated into the whole entire area. The Rebbe teaches, Hainu shaledis Moshe, Pa'ala oir gili elikus b'chol habayis. The point is that the light of Moshe Rabbeinu comes down here in this world and affects the surroundings, and it affects Gidrei ha'olam. The things that define the Metzias of the world, the Teva of the world, gets penetrated with this light, which is an unusual thing. But derech klal, when you have a tremendous revelation of the etzem of neshama, so what happens? It doesn't illuminate the home. Adarabah. It just dispels darkness. Usually it says, what's the nature of oir? Oir is doiche choshech. If you light a candle in a place where there's darkness, it doesn't have the ability to penetrate or to transform or somehow to reveal a positive energy or a positive aspect of the darkness itself. It doesn't have the koyach to do that. Adarabah, you light a candle, what happens? The choshech it's gone. The choshech is dispelled. Over here, what is the lashon of Chazal? When Moshe Rabbeinu was born, it doesn't say b'shar shemoilad Moshe, so the oir was doichel the choshech. Nismale habayis. There's a bias. And the bias is where? Where is this bias? This bias is in Mitzrayim. It's a dark place. And that very place, the bias gets filled with the light. It's a completely different attitude. Sometimes a person experiences a darkness or a difficulty or a struggle. What do? So you try to run away, or you try to reveal your neshama, to somehow block out or ignore the darkness that you're experiencing. Moshe Rabbeinu gives us a completely different kayach, to use the light of the neshama to fill that void, to fill in the void itself, to reveal the positive that there is in the bias of Mitzrayim itself. And this kind of Aveda, which is not about running away from the world, but Adarabah, drawing down and revealing the godliness in the world. You see this during Moshe Rabbeinu's lifetime, which the entire lifetime of Moshe Rabbeinu is all there encapsulated in the time of his birth. Moshe Rabbeinu is the one that put up the Mishkan. The Mishkan was the place where the Eibishter dwelled here below in this world, a physical place where the Eibishter is dwelling in this world. Kedisa b'medrash, so the Medrash tells us, when Rosh Chodesh Nisan arrives, V'tziva HaKadosh Baruch Hu lahakim es HaMishkan. Moshe Rabbeinu tells Yidden to put up the Mishkan. Shalach lahem al yedei Moshe. So the Eibishter sends the message to the Yidden through Moshe. Ma atem yireim. Why are you so afraid? What does this mean? Why were Yidden afraid? Shal Yisrael leimrim. Yidden said, Harei asinu ha-Mishkan. We built the Mishkan. The Yidden actually finished building the Mishkan on Chodesh Cheshvan, long time before. So what's going on? We're waiting for months and months. When is the Shekhinah going to come down and dwell in all of the work? They didn't rush to give all the materials, and they built it very quickly. Okay, two opinions, whether it was Cheshvan and Kislev. Okay. Al Kolpanim, they definitely finished it a long time ago, and they're waiting. Kvar, so here the Eibishter tells the Yidden, Kvar basi legani achaisi kala. I'm already here, ready to come down, legani, to my garden, achaisi kala, my sister, my bride. So here, this is the famous Medrash. When I get to basi legani, that I was quoting it from the beginning. Rabbi Shmuel bar Rabbi Yosi, Rabbi Shmuel bar Rabbi Yosi says, legani and ksiv kan, doesn't define, it doesn't refer to the world or to the Mishkan as a garden. Legani, legnuni, it's my garden, it's my private place. This is the place where the Eibishter was in the beginning of creation. Was the Shekhinah not here below in the beginning of creation? Here you see the full original quote. In Basi Lagani, it doesn't quote it b'tmiya, it just quotes it, but in the Medrash it actually says it b'lashon tmiya. Was the Shekhinah not here below once before? He drove the Shekhinah out of this world to the first Rakiyah. Finally, different generations, the sins that they drove the Shekhinah out from this world, and then by the Mitzrayim, when they sinned, the Shekhinah was driven to the seventh heaven. Seven tzaddikim came to the world and brought the Shekhinah back down into this world. Avram brings the Shekhinah back down from the seventh heaven to the sixth, and then Moshe, Shehu Hashvi, Moshe being the seventh, and V'chol, Hashvi, and Chavivin, and all sevenths are cherished, and brings the Shekhinah down here below. Amad Moshe, V'ayrid Alaretz. Moshe Rabbeinu brings the Shekhinah down below into this world. Okay, everyone is familiar with this medrash, but here you have a ha'ara which the Rebbe brings. Who is the one that actually says this? In the, I'm not sure which ha'ara it's over there. It's ha'ara 81, Shira Shirim Rabbah. In the medrash that the Rebbe quotes inside the Sicha, this whole story about Basi Legani is quoted in the name of Rabbi Shmuel bar Rabbi Yosi. But in the ha'ara 81, what ha'ara is it? 100. 100 in the pamphlet, it says B'shira Shirim Rabbasham, Omer Rab Menachem Chasani de Rab Elazar bar Avuna b'Shem Rab Shimon bar Yesana. A whole long name there. But the point is, it's Rab Menachem Chasani. It's Rab Menachem, the son-in-law. The Yeshleimar. So what does this name hint to? The name Rab Menachem is hinting to bringing down the Shechina Lamata in its fullest, which is when Al Yidei Goyal Rishon Hu Goyal Achrin, referring to Mashiach Shemenachem Shemai. In Sanhedrin it says Menachem Shemai. Amazing. So here the Rebbe says that in the Medrash it said the whole union of Basi Legani, it says it B'Shem Rab Menachem Chasane, Rab Menachem the son-in-law. Okay, very, very unique. So the point of it here is that the whole life of Moshe Rabbeinu was about bringing the Shekhinah down. Like the truth is, like the six tzaddikim that came before him. But they brought the Shekhinah from one level of Rekiyah to another. They've never brought the Shekhinah down here below into this world. Moshe Rabbeinu, his whole life was to bring the Shekhinah down b'tachteinim, here in the world below. And that's why from the moment he's born, what does his neshama accomplish? Even when he's a baby, when he's not active, when he can't do anything, from the moment he's born, what his neshama does is it doesn't dispel darkness, it fills the home with darkness. It's a whole different thing. Yeah. To add another point here. Shas cholas hakomes hamishkan. Moshe Rabbeinu begins putting up the Mishkan. The very first time actually was not Rish Chodesh Nisan. The 7 days that he put it up. Moshe making a Mishkan and Mefarkai. For 7 days, Moshe Rabbeinu would put up and take apart the Mishkan from Chav Gimel Adar. These are the last 7 days. Everything follows the end. So this is the conclusion, the last 7 days, the last week of the month of the Chodesh Adar. So the reason why Moshe Rabbeinu puts up the Mishkan the first time at the end of the month of Adar is because that's what Adar represents, the Aleph Dor, to bring down, to reveal the Shekhinah in this world here below. Therefore, based on this, we can say as follows. There are 2 parts to the month. In the beginning of the month, Mudgish Yaiser Hataykif, Adar, the Ha'aleph, the strength, the might of the neshama, the source of the neshama of a yid. Reish v'ascholas teves Adar. The Aleph is the first letter of the month. Shalom Aylam Aylam. This is the kayach, where it comes from, in its source. The Aleph above, Adar B'Morim Hashem, the fact that the Eibishter is removed from this world. So when you enter into the month of Adar, the first chelik of the month, the focus is that a person should come to realize that things in nature that I see don't matter. Things in the nature of my own life, in my own kaiches, also don't matter. The first step to connect to your essence is what? Is to take away all the external layers. Take away all the external layers that are blocking you of reaching to your essence. And you have to really come to that realization that all those external layers are not the true you. There's an Aleph there. There's an essence there. That's the first step. That's the first part of the month. Then when you come to the second part of the month, actually, it begins from the 7th day of Adar, which is the birth of Moshe Rabbeinu. Definitely in the last month of Adar, in the last month, when Moshe Rabbeinu puts up the Mishkan, so here, in the second half of the month, what's here the emphasis? That now, after you got to the essence, after you removed all the external layers and you got to the essence, now you have to come back. Now you have to bring back that essence down to every single one of those layers that you removed. Every single one of those layers are part of who you are. The way you think, the way you feel. Now you have to integrate it back into all those layers of your personality, which is the Aleph Dar. The second half of the month is the Dar, to bring it down. Hemshech v'siyum teves Adar. The continuation and the conclusion of the word Adar, al yedei Mishkan, through building a Mishkan, which of course we know, building of the Mishkan also refers to every individual, building his own personal Mishkan, v'shechanti b'seicham, every person to build a Mishkan in his own personal heart. Aval, however, gam b'siyumay shel chodesh Adar, even at the conclusion of this month, sheba yischila kamas Mishkan, when Moshe Rabbeinu put up the Mishkan, hemidai Moshe l'Mishkan v'shimish bo yiperke b'chol yom. It wasn't permanent. Moshe Rabbeinu erected the Mishkan and he assembled it and he disassembled it every single day. For 7 days. And for those 7 days, the Shekhinah did not yet come down. Meaning, that revelation did not yet penetrate the world below. Presence of the Shekhinah still remains still remains removed of this world. The revelation of the Mishkan was still removed of the Metzias of the world below. So when does the Shekhinah come down into the Mishkan in this world? That begins in the following month. That begins in a Chodesh Nisan. The Iker HaMshach Vaz Galus Ba'olam, the revelation of the Shekhinah in the world begins Lamata, here below, Al Yedei HaKamas HaMishkan B'Eifan Shel Kfiyas, when the Mishkan is put up for the first time to be there permanently, V'Ashras HaShekhinah B'Oy, and the Shekhinah dwells in the Mishkan, Haisa B'Rish Chodesh Nisan. Yom HaShmini Lamiluim, on the 8th day, after they put it up and took it down, on Chodesh Nisan. And then V'amsheichoi b'chanukas hamishkan al yidei Yud Beis Nesiya Yisrael, the continuation of the celebration of inaugurating the Mishkan for 12 days through the 12 Nesiyim, the Meshech Yud Beis Hayomim Rish Chodesh Nisan ad Yud Beis Bay, from Rish Chodesh to Yud Beis Nisan, Nasi Echad L'Yayim, every day there was another Nasi that brought the Shekhinah down into this world. Shebezeh Mudgeshes Yaiser, so this emphasizes Hamshachas V'gilei Elokos B'gidrei Ha'ilam. The number 12 represents the limitation and what defines the existence of our world. What's the significance of the number 12? So this is not a very usual concept that's spoken about very often, but the number 12 refers to this unique revelation in Welt, in the Metzias of the world. So here the Rebbe brings as follows: Yud Beis Tziruf Shem Havaya, Melosha Mahava. When you have 4 letters, you switch around those 4 letters. There can be 12 different ways. Anytime you have a combination of 4 letters here, Yud K and Vav K, you can combine those 4 letters in 12 different ways. Reorganize the order of the letters in 12 different ways. Shal Yodam Nases Havas Hazman, and the source of the existence of time. Every moment in time, the reason why 1 second and the next second are not just a repetition of this previous second, and every second is new and is disconnected to the previous second, is because it comes from a source of the Yud-based tzirufim, and therefore every single moment in the world has another tziruf. That's ultimately where it comes from. And another point which it says about, and also, Yud-based Chodshei Hashana. This is also the source of the creation. Yud-based Chodshei Hashana is the time of the year, and this Havas HaMokim, also the creation of place, of the space in the world. Yud-based Gvulei Alaksin. There's a concept in Kabbalah called Yud-based Gvulei Alaksin, which basically means that we know that the Sfiris Lamaila are connected to one another. Like Chesed, Gvura, there's Chesed Sheba Chesed, there's Gvura Sheba Chesed, and so too in Gvura, there's Gvura Sheba Gvura, and there's Chesed Sheba Gvura. The Sfiris, the Midas Lamaila, are 6. The main Midas, if you count from Chesed to Yesod, the 6 Midas. Malchus is already a separate thing. Malchus is when it comes out, the Gilui, Dibur. But the 6 Sfiris from Chesed to Yesod. And those 6 Sfiris of Chesed and Yesod have, if you line up the Sfiris, Chesed on one side, and again on the other, from Chesed to Yesod on one side, and then also from Chesed to Yesod on the other side, and they diagonally connect to one another. Instead of connecting Chesed to Chesed, you connect Chesed to Gvura, and you connect Chesed from the other side to Gvura on the other side. So they mix with one another, not directly, but they're matched, not exactly directly. That's the source of Mokim in the world. Meaning, Hainishagam begidrei ha'olam Yud Beis. So the number Yud Beis refers to the fact that we bring it down into the limitations of the world, bringing down a revelation of godliness that's above the Metzias of the world. That's the whole theme of the month. Melosha Nes. The word Nisan means a miracle. A double miracle. So let's see over here, order 92. Which order is it in this pamphlet? I'm not sure. So Meir, which order are we holding by? I'm going to learn order 92 where it says Via Shleimer. I want to learn something in connection to Yud Aleph Nisan. Today, 104? 114. So today is Yud Aleph Adar. What's unique about the day Yud Aleph Adar? 2 things. Number 1, today is the first day in the time in the Beis HaMikdash, or maybe even after, there's different opinions in the Gemara, where the people of the villages that didn't have it easy to be able to read the Megillah could start reading the Megillah from Yud Aleph Adar. The very first Mishnah, Masechta Megillah says, Megillah Nekras b'Yud Aleph. So that's the first thing about. So the whole entire month of Adar is connected to Purim, but especially from the day Yud Aleph. In some Kehillas from Yud Aleph, they don't say Tachnan anymore. From Yud Aleph until Yud Zayin, because even Yud Zayin, the Gemara says, still talks about the fact that you can't read the Megillah Yud Zayin. Anyways, so from Yud Aleph, some places don't say Tachnan. But then there's another thing. Then there's another thing. Yud Aleph Adar is exactly a month before Yud Aleph Nisan, the Rebbe's birthday, Shloshim Yayim, to prepare, to make a achon of Yud Aleph Nisan, especially this year, 120 years, the Rebbe's Yom Haledes. So here, in the Hara 92 or 114, the Rebbe brings the connection to Yud Aleph Nisan. V'yeshloima she'inyin zeh mudgish yoser b'gemar Chanukas HaMishkan b'Yud Beis Nisan. What we're speaking about here, that on Yud Beis Nisan was the conclusion of the whole celebration, when they inaugurated the Mishkan, when all the Nesiim brought their karbanis and they completed in Yud Beis Nisan, la'achrei achad asar bay. The number 12 follows Yud Aleph Nisan, the 11th day. Shagam hadarga hachi nailis ta'achadasa. So the point here is Yud Aleph represents a level which is completely out of the nature of the world. Antuchad v'lo b'chushban. As it says in many places, the number 10 represents the 10 spheres. The number 11 is achadasa. It's above, it's out of that framework of the 10 spheres. So that's the number 11. The Nisan, which is Nisan. It's 11 within the month of Nisan. So you have a combination of two things that are completely out of the ordinary, out of the regular anhaga of the world. Sai, the concept of Nisan, and in Nisan Gufa, the 11th of Nisan. The 11th refers, so in other words, in Nisan Gufa, there's a lot of levels. So before you come to the 11th of Nisan, the first day, the second day, up to the 10th day, in Nisan itself, there's a certain seder, there's a certain, then you come to the 11th of Nisan, that's the ultimate miracle. The birth of the Rebbe. That's the ultimate miracle, the revelation of the Rebbe in this world. And then from Yud Aleph, you go directly into Yud Beis. What does Yud Beis represent? The exact opposite, bringing it down. Yud Beis represents the limitations of the world. You have to take the revelation of Yud Aleph Nisan and draw it down into the next day, which is Yud Beis, B'yema Yud Beis. It's not only the next day, which is the Shleimus, when they completed the celebration of the Mishkan, but it also represents Yud Beis, Chadashim, the 12 months of the year, Yud Beis Gvuli Alaksin, which represents the source of time and space of the nature of the entire world. So that's ultimately the whole kavanah over here. We're talking about the birth of Moshe Rabbeinu. The Rebbe started here from Shiva B'Adar, the birth of Moshe Rabbeinu. Then the Rebbe spoke about Chav Gimel Adar, the day that Moshe Rabbeinu began putting up the Mishkan. Then Rish Chodesh Nisan, which is the day they permanently put up the Mishkan. And then from there you come to Yud Aleph Nisan, the day where you have a tremendous revelation of Yud Aleph within the month of Nisan. And then Yud Beis is when the Shleimus Agili comes down in the world into the nature of the world. That's the flow of how this thing goes. Okay.